The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on YouTube and on iTunes and at my site, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you can read all the latest news and commentary and make comments of your own. It matters not whether you agree with the author. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio. We are syndicated coast to coast across the United States of America to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Alan Jacey, you remember yesterday I was slapping Congressman Darrell Issa all over the place?
I do.
Yes, you do, and rightly so, because Darrell Issa, who actually represents San Diego in the United States Congress, and is very attuned to the needs of the military, very well supportive of the U.S. military, kind of stuck his foot in his mouth yesterday at a congressional hearing. See, ladies and gentlemen, in case you missed my commentary about this yesterday, the hearing was held because a number of the rescue and recovery workers who answered the call to duty here in New York City on September the 11th, 2001, as a result of the exposure to the toxins emanating from the pit known as Ground Zero, also known as the World Trade Center site, have become ill and so incapacitated that they cannot work and they can no longer afford to sustain their own families. And so a congressional hearing was held yesterday to determine what the federal government can do to help these brave men and women who literally were running into the jaws of death while thousands of others were running away. I mean, we've all seen the images. We all know what these extraordinary men and women did. And Darrell Issa just surprised the heck out of me yesterday when he said not one red cent, not one thin dime of federal money should go to these first responders. Well, let me tell you something. Unlike other politicians, I mean, politicians are forever misstating things or taking the wrong position, but then they wait to see what the fallout's going to be. They wait to see what the polling data shows, what they should do next. Not Darrell Issa, because after that hearing was over, for which he was roundly criticized by yours truly as well as others, he met with family members, and after meeting with the family members, he said, you know, you guys are right. I was wrong. I should never have said it. I now support the funding for these brave men and women. And so, yesterday I panned Darrell Issa. I say he is a rare man. He is a rare politician. He deserves a tip of the hat to immediately recognize the error of his ways and correct himself, and is now doing the right thing. Alan Jacey, you're our political correspondent. When was the last time you saw an elected official quickly change course after recognizing that he or she did the wrong thing like this?
Gary, it was probably George Washington, who I believe is our guest today. I can't remember the last time I saw a politician change his mind. I was actually surprised that Issa came out saying these things to begin with, because, I've seen him on a number of shows, particularly on Bill Maher's show, more than 3-4 times. And while he is conservative, he seems fairly reasonable, and he seems attuned to what's happening, and not your typical, toe-the-line politician. He just seemed like he was not the type of guy that wouldn't be standing up for first responders and the position that they're in.
Well, this kind of thing is called flip-flopping, and it's generally considered a negative thing when a politician changes his mind. But let me tell you, this was a positive thing. Darrell Issa, once again, congratulations to you for recognizing and correcting the error of your ways as quickly as you did. Now, speaking of George Washington, our guest today is Joseph C. Smith. He and Tara Ross co-authored a book. It's called Under God, George Washington and the Question of Church and State. And Joseph Smith is a law expert, and he believes that our society has not embraced the traditions of the Founding Fathers, and in fact, our first president, our first commander-in-chief, not only did not believe of the wall of separation between church and state, but believed that religion is essential for the virtue of self-governing citizens. And he says that George Washington believed that a democracy must not merely accommodate religion, but encourage it for the health of the citizens and the state. I gotta tell you, I'm 56 years old, so I gotta imagine for the past 50 years at least, as far back as I can remember, it's been pounded into me that this country believes in separation of church and state. And now those beliefs are being shattered by our guest, Joseph C. Smith. Welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thank you, Gary. Good to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. Well, at first blush, one would say you are crazy, man. The Constitution of the United States clearly says church and state shall not mix. Are we wrong about that?
Well, if you think it literally says that, you are wrong. It does not say that, and it certainly doesn't contain the phrase separation of church and state. What the Constitution says about church and state is that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Right. So that doesn't necessarily mean encouraging, however, the practice of any religion, does it?
It doesn't necessarily mean that. I think taking us back to the phrase separation of church and state, that was Thomas Jefferson's phrase. That was a phrase that he coined in 1802, which was about 10 years after the First Amendment was enacted, and in fact after George Washington had died. And that's what Jefferson wanted people to take away from the First Amendment. It's important to distinguish between what the Constitution allows and what the Constitution requires. With respect to church and state, the Constitution says government cannot establish a religion, and it must guarantee the free exercise of religion.
So let's just go back to the origins of the United States of America. There were people who were attempting to practice their religion, mainly in England, whose religion they were practicing did not conform strictly to the beliefs of the Church of England, the Anglican Church, now known as the Episcopalian Church here in the United States, correct?
That's right.